Handmade metallic watercolors are all the rave right now, and I 100% know why. I prefer these way more over manufactured watercolors. Now, before I get into why, I will talk about what they are. So first off, these are watercolors that are handmade by different makers. Each maker has unique pigments that they like to use to create their own magical watercolors. The pigments and glitters vary from fine glitter to chunky glitter to holographic to color changing or color shifting. And the options and opportunities are really endless, and many makers are getting so creative and creating so many unique metallic watercolors. So now, what paper is best to use with these? The thing that I love about metallics is that they show up really well on black paper. It really makes them pop. And they do show up well on white paper as well, but with some watercolors, like interference watercolors, they will primarily show up on black paper. And there are tons of different categories of metallic watercolors. I actually have a full course covering handmade metallic watercolors. It breaks down water ratios, brushes, paper, as well as going into depth with over 12 unique projects. I will also show you exactly how I film my videos and take pictures to correctly capture the sparkle. And this has landed me millions of views and thousands of followers, and I want to share my exact process with you. Now, here's a little tip for you when it comes to watercolor brushes. I suggest purchasing separate brushes for your metallic watercolors because, for one, the glitter is extremely hard to get out of the brushes sometimes. And then secondly, some metallic watercolors can ruin your good brushes. It really is rough on them, and so this is why I suggest getting 2 sets of brushes, one for your matte watercolors and then one for your metallic watercolors. Now, how do you use these? So before using your watercolors, I use a process called activating your watercolors. And really, this is a process that I came up with for myself, but I did notice that it is necessary in order to achieve great results with your metallic watercolors to use this process. This process basically entails adding water to the paint, letting it sit, and then swirling the paint. So water, sit, and swirl. Now, in my course, I cover the exact drops of water I use for each type of watercolor and for what specific use. And I go into great detail and even include a cheat sheet to cover this so you can easily refer back, because all watercolors are not made the same and they all require different amounts of water to achieve great results. If you want some of my favorite handmade metallic watercolor makers, I will list them in the description below, and I will add their shops as well. But I love Hydracolour, Iuile, Tiny Cactus, Foster's Creations, Aloha Watercolors, ArtisticIsle Watercolors, The Southern Brush, Cloverset, Andflowertales, and Wits Watercolors. However, there are so many amazing makers out there, and they are all creative and unique in their own way. So I definitely recommend going and checking out those shops. Also, with the course, you do get exclusive discount codes to all of those shops that I just mentioned. So make sure to be on the lookout for those if you enroll in my metallic watercolor course. Now, do I prefer handmade over manufactured watercolors? And as I said before, yes, absolutely, 300%. Now, don't get me wrong, there are great manufactured watercolor companies, but I just find that the handmade watercolors have way more shimmer, more variety, and they are easier to activate. I feel as though the manufactured watercolors have a hardness to them that makes it more difficult to use. The one thing though about handmade metallic watercolors is that there isn't any information out there on how to properly use them. So this is what my course will cover, is everything that you need to understand on how to use these properly. So let's also talk about how to store metallic watercolors. Now, I prefer mine in a tin, but I also display some of mine as well on my magnetic wall of my dream box. So there are so many different ways that people like to organize them. It's really a preference kind of a thing. I like to separate them by maker and then have them in like a specific rainbow order. But like I said, some people mix all of the different makers together and they just have them by a color order. So it's really how you like to do it and what makes sense for you. If you guys are interested in enrolling in the metallic watercolor course, make sure you are on the lookout for the enrollment date, because enrollment only is open twice a year. And I don't want you to miss out. Tons of people are too late for signups, which is unfortunate. So just make sure you're on my email list so you don't miss out on any of those notifications. Thank you guys so much for watching, and please let me know if you guys have any makers that you absolutely love. What's your favorite? How do you like to store your watercolors?